There is no better way to answer the critics and strike back after poor performances than by recording your biggest ever Premier League victory. And that's what Liverpool have done today. They've beaten Bournemouth at Anfield 9-2-0. Yes, you heard me right. 9-0. And it was the perfect response. It was needed. The last few weeks, the pressure has been ramping up on Liverpool. People have been questioning them. Are they? Is this the end of this cycle of players? Have the players lost their desire? Is a refresh needed from the heavy metal, high energy football that Jurgen Klopp plays? And what an emphatic way to answer these questions. Now, before we get into Liverpool, who were obviously outstanding, I have to just preface by saying Bournemouth were bad. I mean, it was, in a lot of ways, this was the perfect game. Liverpool needed to build up some confidence. They needed to get a win on the board. This was the perfect team to play. A newly promoted side who would try to play football. And so often when teams play Liverpool these days, particularly at Anfield, and they have no real intention to try to control the game at all or to play expansively, it can be easy to criticize them. And it can be frustrating when every team seems to just play counter-attack against us. But when you watch a game like this, it's pretty obvious why teams sit back against Liverpool, try to play in the counter. Because if you give this team space, I mean, they can punish you, and punish Bournemouth they certainly did. Jurgen Klopp apparently had a meeting midweek with the players to try to sort out some issues, clear the air with some problems that we've been having this season. And my God, did it work. From the off, the team just looked different. I mean, it was day and night compared to the Manchester United team. You got to say Bournemouth, I mean, they played into Liverpool's hands. They were naive. They tried to play it from the back. They tried to play somewhat expansively. Defensively, they were extremely poor. But Liverpool still had to punish them. They still had to take advantage. And if you look at some of the stats, Liverpool had 19 shots, which is in line with what we generally have. The average last season was about 19. One of the major differences, though, in this game versus previous games were that 12 of those shots were on target. Against Manchester United, I think we had over 20 shots, only 5 were on target. So that was a big difference. The team, the forward line looked reinvigorated. It seemed that directness was back. Luis Diaz looked far more direct, more dangerous. I mean, it's pretty crazy that he scored 2 goals with his head, actually. But he was running at players more, and I felt like we were missing a bit of that from him in the last few games. Firmino rolled back the years with that performance. Scored a couple of goals. First goals at Anfield for over 2 years, which, I mean, good news that he's got them, but on the flip side of that does show that he has been on a bit of a decline. But he was excellent. It reminded me of peak Firmino. He's linking up play, he was dropping deep, he was bringing other players into play, he was creating space, he made nice passes, he retained the ball well. He did exactly what we want Firmino to do in games. The strangest thing about the whole day was that Liverpool scored 9 times at home. Salah played 90 minutes and he wasn't on the score sheet. He could have had a hat-trick himself, probably at least. He had some really great chances, particularly first half. Elliott played a lovely ball across the box. Salah came in at the far post, looked like he was only a couple of yards out. It looked like a guaranteed goal, but he somehow managed to slice the ball wide. He was dangerous the whole game, though. You can tell Salah really, really wanted that goal, though. Even when it was 9-0, coming up to 90 minutes, and Carvalho went down in the box. Salah was the one who appealed the most for a penalty. He was desperate to get that goal. But overall, the team just played the desire. I mean, it was day and night. The pressing was there. The energy was there. I mean, I think it was important that Elliott played as an 8 because he's been one of our better players this season. But for the first time this season, Klopp played Henderson on the left-hand side. That's part of the reason why Milner played against Manchester United, because he wanted to keep Henderson. Well, Henderson was playing DM. He wanted Elliott on the right-hand side, and Milner tends to play on the left more than Henderson. But, I mean, look, Henderson's just a better player than Milner, even though he's not as good at playing on the left as he is on the right. But the balance in the midfield felt a lot better. There was some really nice passing moves. We just looked far more dangerous in the final third. And when you marry that with the pressing being back, the energy being back, Bournemouth just couldn't live with it. And it seemed like every time Liverpool went forward that they were going to create a chance and that they could put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, out of the 19 shots, only 12 were on target and we scored 9 goals. And that's sometimes how football goes. I do feel like we missed some big chances in other games this season. There were quite a few close calls, and then, all the goals come in a glut. They all come at once. And it seemed like today, shots were just finding the bottom corner. In terms of the midfield, Elliott, he only played 45 minutes, but he was absolutely excellent. And I was so happy for him getting that goal. First Premier League goal for Liverpool, and totally deserved. Elliott posted some videos last summer prior to the training camp started of him training by himself with a coach practicing his shooting. And look, it's obviously paid off, because that finish, first time outside of the box, left foot curled right in the corner, fantastic finish. I was a little bit disappointed to see Elliott come off at halftime because he was one of our better players. I get though that Klopp really wants to give Carvalho minutes, and he wanted to give him long enough to really show what he could do. And Carvalho delivered as well. He was good when he came on against Manchester United last week. And what a great goal to score. First one for Liverpool at the Kop end, 19 years old. I mean, he's got so much talent. Fantastic ball from Trent over the top. Tsimikas' first time touch was left foot, and Carvalho running in with his right foot buried it in the bottom corner. I mean, it was a really, really great goal. Fabinho looked back to his best. He was winning tackles. He just looked more focused, less complacent. He has started seasons slow before, and we need him to turn up, and he did today. Henderson had a decent game too. He wasn't outstanding or anything, but he was solid. Showed some nice touches again, won the ball back more than he has been recently. Defensively, we weren't tested that much. I can't really remember Alisson having to make any big saves. Gomez played well. He was active. He's a front foot defender, won quite a lot of ball. Didn't really put a foot wrong all game. Van Dijk was a huge threat in the air with set pieces, scored a nice goal. Robertson, improvement as well. I feel like he seemed more fired up. He used the ball a bit better than he has been recently. And we need him to keep that up too. I felt like his form has slipped a little bit this season. And Trent, I mean, he's had a lot of criticism this year because he's been somewhat directly involved with multiple goals that have been scored this season against Liverpool. He just has so much quality on the ball. Played some incredible long passes, feeding Salah extremely well, as he always does. And my God, what a finish for his goal. And maybe a little bit of a sign of him being able to play in midfield. I mentioned in the last video that as good as he is going forward, even if he creates 2 or 3 chances in a particular game, but he's directly involved with a goal being conceded, I mean, the benefit might be offset by the downside, especially when every team seems to be targeting Trent each game. But defensively, he looks strong today. He looks switched on, albeit against a much weaker Bournemouth side. But we saw his qualities. And you do wonder, Klopp came out in the press conference yesterday and said that we are officially looking for a midfielder. I mean, could Trent play as an 8 on the right-hand side? He probably could. He won't have as much time to play those cross-field passes or the long-range passes. But that goal was a sign of him picking the ball up in midfield, playing a nice quick 1-2 and getting a shot off. Could be something to think about, especially when we play up against those really top sides. And unfortunately, a lot of the goals are coming down the right-hand side. something to consider. Two 17-year-olds even got on the pitch. Great to see Bobby Clark and Bajcetic getting their debuts. Be interesting to see if they can get many more minutes this season. I mean, Bobby Clark probably not. Bajcetic, I mean, who knows? If we don't get a midfielder, maybe the door will be open to him at some point, because he does offer more defensive cover than some of the other midfield options we have right now. So it's always exciting to see the young players. Overall, the feeling is totally different after this game. We started the day with just 2 points from 3 games. We've now got 5. Going to start moving up the table, have another home game next against Newcastle. And it's a confidence building performance, and it's just a reminder of what this team is capable of and the standards that they've set for themselves. They have to keep this up now. We need to keep that energy, need to keep that pressing. There's been something just a little bit off in the last few games, but the season starts now. We need to approach it in that manner. So things are suddenly looking a lot brighter. It changes so quickly in football. I'm hoping that we can get a midfielder in before the transfer deadline on Thursday. And I do think we need somebody who can play as an 8, who can play as a DM, who covers ground, who can bring that energy, bring the pressing, who is a more inclined defensive player, because so many of our midfielders are more attacking orientated, like Harvey Elliott, like Carvalho, Keita to an extent, Jones. We need somebody who can be a ball winner in the centre of the park. So I'm hoping we can get somebody in before the deadline. And let's bring on Newcastle. Another 3 points on the board, and this season is going to start looking very different. Come on, the Reds. See you next time.